The definition of fresher is not someone who is still in college, it's someone who doesn't have a lot of hands on experience. You can be in a
Yes,
college and still be an experienced professional.
SRE is not for freshers. I
Mhm.
think very
That's
high
actually
level.
how the interview should be. That's the right way of conducting an interview.
My software experience had nothing to do with cloud and DevOps.
Or when they say, like, it's not for freshers, DevOps is not for freshers. What's your thought on that? Hmm.
They are super good at least one thing. Either it's networking, or it's database, or
Mhm.
it's backend frameworks. Like this one thing in software engineering, they're like
Mhm.
extremely good at. Like they can tell things out of their mind, out of their head.
You sent the 300 cold emails, you got the reply from one or two. That's the actual figures that works.
I think I forgot what I was saying.
Okay, sorry about that. That's my bad actually. Hello Harsh, welcome back to the channel. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
Great, great. Thank you for accepting my invite for this podcast. I'm sure viewers will be finding this helpful and valuable. So, why don't we start with your introduction in your own words?
Yeah, sure. So, hey everyone, I am Harsh. I am currently working as a site reliability engineer at 12 in Pune. We are a services based consulting firm. We specialize in reliability engineering and back-end product engineering. And apart from work, I like listening to music, mostly metal and Punjabi. And I think that's it.
Metal and Punjabi, that's quite a rare combination, but yeah, that's good. That's good to know. So, Harsh, can you tell us about your academic background? Like, you are still in college, passed out, or what is the current status?
That's a good question because I just graduated 3 days
Okay.
ago.
3 days ago. Wow. Congratulations. I didn't know that. Congratulations.
So I just graduated 3 days ago, and I actually started out as an intern at the same firm, and
Mhm,
before that, I was working into small freelance projects, and
mhm.
I did have an open source bounty under my belt. Apart from that, coming to my academic background, I did my BTech in computer science and engineering from JSS Noida. I did come from a CSE background.
So, like, how long ago have you started working over there?
So I started out last year in August as an
Mhm,
intern, as a site reliability engineer here. I had just started final year of my college, and before that, I was all into Azure DevOps. We were helping migrate a healthcare client in which is based out of Florida, from very old SQL based, data center based workloads to microservices based
okay.
architecture.
Mhm,
So that was it. And before that, I was contributing to this one project, which is
mhm.
runwin.com, which is all about runbook automation as an open source contributor.
Okay.
And I think that's a very small journey that I had.
Okay, okay, that's quite an interesting journey in my opinion. So, a question for you, on behalf of all the freshers that are out there. You started working in fourth year, and you've got the job as a SRE engineer. Started out at intern, and then finally got promoted to full time. So, what do you think? Like, what opinion do you have when people say that there are no jobs for fresher in DevOps SRE umbrella, or when they say like it's not for freshers, DevOps is not for fresher? What's your thought on that? Because you, as a fresher, got the job, right? So, what's your opinion on that?
Okay, so actually see two sides of this argument. The sides of the argument, I think both are correct because both arguments come from a very different perspective.
Mhm,
So if I say when I started out as an SRE, right? So what I didn't mention before this, like I also was an LFX mentee, right?
mhm, yeah.
As part of the Linux kernel bug
Mhm,
fixing sprint.
mhm,
Before that, I had also done some gig work as a backend developer as well.
mhm, mhm.
So even though I did not have much experience, I did
Uh-huh.
not have much depth, I was able to get through a lot of interview questions because I had not seen the depth of things, but I had at least touched it.
Okay. Mhm.
So, if I would say from that point of view, then yes, SRE is not for freshers. I
Mhm.
think nowadays a lot of companies, especially in Delhi NCR, as I see, in fact,
Mhm.
uh, in the last semester, few of them came for placements in our college as well, are
Mhm.
having these junior DevOps roles.
Mhm.
So, if I say that if it's around learning a lot of sysadmin stuff is one thing, and most of the DevOps jobs out there in the market right now
Mhm.
are actually people just solving tickets,
Okay.
doing no planned work. And if
Mhm.
if you think from that perspective, I would say DevOps is for freshers.
Okay.
But if you say about thinking in terms of scale, thinking in terms of reliability, although that's a lot of people would say that is an SRE thing, but I think largely SRE and DevOps are same. It's just that the way of thinking
Yeah, because
changes,
lots of responsibilities overlap between these two roles.
overlap, and I think the only change is the change of the end customer,
Yep.
nothing else. So
Mhm.
in a typical junior DevOps role, the end customer is your team, right? Your dev
Yep.
teams.
Mhm.
See, I need this pipeline, I need these accounts, I want to
Mhm.
automate XYZ processes.
Mhm.
In case of an SRE, your end customer becomes the actual end user. That
Yep.
hey, users are not able to make transactions. Hey, this service is down.
True.
You have more of a first responder responsibilities.
Mhm.
So if I go into very strict definitions of these terms, then I would say DevOps is not for freshers. But if you think in terms of career progression, or, coming from what background that you come from. So for
Mhm.
example, I know someone who is working as a junior DevOps, and he started out as an Android developer.
Mhm.
Even though he was an Android developer, he used that software experience
Mhm.
as a way to understand backend systems as well.
Mhm.
Then he learned cloud and he got into a DevOps role. So
Mhm.
I think with DevOps and cloud, it's more about what have you seen, right? You don't need to have professional experience as such, but you have to show, like it should show
True.
in your
Mhm.
resume or
Mhm.
your work history or your projects that hey, you at least know how a backend application works. You at least know how servers work,
Mhm.
something like that.
Okay.
So that is why I would say that both arguments are equally valid. It just
True.
depends on what kind of role you are applying for and what are the expectations of the employer. That's
So,
it.
if I were to summarize this, is it a valid statement to say that if like being an experienced professional doesn't mean you have worked in a company? Experience you could gain from your side projects, from your open source contribution, from the programs like LFX Menti, like you've mentioned. So if you have that kind of hands-on experience where you have built your project by your own, where you have investigated and triaged the issue by yourself, the actual production issues, then yes, that would be considered as an experience, and yes, then you would definitely get a job as a DevOps or SRE engineer. But if you are, and it doesn't matter, it is irrespective of if you are in second year or third year of the college as well. Like, is it
Yes,
fair to say that?
I would say yes.
Okay.
And two more things that I would like to add on to that is
Mm.
that like for example, before this on open source bounties thing, I did not have like my software experience had nothing to do with cloud and DevOps. Like Linux kernel mentorship is a whole different track that was into low level systems and all. And let's be clear, I failed at that miserably. Like in the horrendous ways that I failed is
But you ended up learning a lot of things, right, because of that?
I ended up learning a lot of things.
Yeah,
And
that's important.
uh, uh,
That's important.
that is important. So yeah, I would say that you have to do that signaling that even if this person doesn't have experience,
Hmm.
of course you will never experience scale in an open source project until and unless it is like hugely popular and a
Yeah.
lot of people are using it,
Yeah.
be it your personal project or your uh, most open source projects.
Hmm.
But the thing is that the very fact that you made an attempt to triage issues, you developed some debugging skills, I think that is what will help you get a job as an SRE.
So actually, the definition of fresher is not someone who is still in college. It's someone who doesn't have a lot of hands-on experience. You can be in a
Yes,
college and still be an experienced professional, right? Like
yes,
what you have
exactly.
mentioned through your experience. It's a great perspective, and it's something that not a lot of people think it that way. People think just because we are in college, we are a fresher. It's mostly a mindset, right? It's how
Yes.
you have perceived the situation, how you have learned, and how you have implemented things by your own. Yeah, I'm loving this discussion so far, so let's continue with that. So how did you prepare for this role, like the SRE role that you are working currently with?
To be very like honest on this, I did not do any specific preparation. So like I was applying everywhere. Like that was my early like the end of my third year. I was applying everywhere. That placement season starts and everybody in their final and pre-final, they're like in all chaos. Ki, yaar, it's
Mm,
placement time,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
You're studying and doing stuff. So I was applying for both SRE roles and software roles at the time, and my resume was more more aligned towards the DevOps side of things. And to be frank, I did not prepare for my any of my interviews except for some Linux basics, because
mm,
there's like when you are in an interview setting, you can know a lot of commands, but you need that muscle memory at times.
true. Yeah.
You need that muscle memory at times. You need to revisit some specific terminologies. That is
Mm,
what I did. I think, yeah, the top X interview questions are a good refresher for all the terminologies that you need to
mm,
use in an interview. But
mm.
apart from that, most of my interviews have been that people have looked at my resume and questioned me on my own work.
On your work, okay. Because you had a lot of
So
work in your resume, even though you were in college, you had done quite a bunch of things already.
So most of the time I was questioned on my resume
Mm.
and not on very specific, say, how would you do X or Y.
Sorry to cut you off, but that is actually a great example of how you drive your own interview. So I was talking to one of the DevOps professional earlier, and he told me the same thing. Like most of the times, it's not the interviewer asking the question, it's you forcing them to ask them the question that you want them to ask. Like you have done a lot of work, you have done open source contribution and all of those things, so it's out there in your resume, so you are just telling the interviewer without telling him or her that ask me the question from that. And because you have done all those things by yourself, like the actual hands on, there is absolutely no issues with answering those, right? And you could have
Yes.
excelled in that already. So that's a great example. Okay, sorry, continue. You were saying something.
I think I forgot what I was saying.
Okay, sorry about that. That's my bad actually. I shouldn't have stopped you. Okay, it's okay. So let's move forward. Okay, so you mentioned like you were applying everywhere, and you were trying to give interview wherever you can. So like what was your strategy of applying to the jobs? Did you do cold emailing? Did you reach out to the person in person? Did you use your networking contacts, referrals? And how many jobs have you applied? Like, what was the overall situation?
So I would be very honest here. Most of the applications that I did was, except for one or two YC backed startups, I
Okay.
won't take the names here. They were through their challenges that they posted out on LinkedIn. I failed their final rounds,
Okay.
and then the next few were from referrals, and others were actually recruiter calls direct.
Okay.
So for me, the things like cold emailing, like
Mm.
I remember I would have sent around 300 or 400 emails.
Wow.
And out of them, I think only one or two got answered.
Okay.
One actually converted into like an opportunity, and like I was rejected in, I think, the second or third round.
Okay.
So For me, these strategies never worked. Maybe I was applying them wrong. I
No,
really don't know.
that's how it is. Like people, when they say cold emailing, you don't expect the reply from like 5% or 10% of them. That's actually the realistic number. You send the 300 cold emails, you got the reply from one or two. That's the actual figures that works. But let's say
Like
if you
I
have applied for 600, 900, 1500 roles like this through cold emailing, you would have gotten, let's say, 10, 15 replies maybe. So it's more you send the email, more chances of you getting a reply. So that's the realistic situation out there.
and I think also one factor contributing to it was that I was doing it in the wake of 2024
Mm-hmm.
and mid 2024. Like the market actually started improving in the last quarter of 2024 2025, where you had a lot of junior level DevOps positioning opening up. Before that, I think it was like a desert, like no positions, and every other position was asking for 2 plus or 3 plus years of experience at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this would have contributed to this, and that was a time that I was actually trying for both SRE roles and software roles as well.
Okay.
So like that was the time like everybody was trying everything, like even the most talented ones I knew, like who had GSOC under their belt, they were even struggling to find a job.
Okay.
It was that time, so I think a lot of would have been influenced by that as well.
Okay. So you mentioned you started with completing the challenges for some startups, then
Yes.
some through referrals, some recruiters reaching out to you by themselves, and then rest was cold emailing and applying to the random companies everywhere, right? And
Yes.
out of those, what works best for you, or what do you think yielded the most beneficial results, where you got maximum number of replies?
I would say reference.
Referrals. So referrals is equally important. Actually, it's most important. But then what, like, who are these people who you have reached out to? Like, were they your known, or have you worked with them before, or were they just random people from LinkedIn or Twitter?
So I would say that like we were part of a small community. I think I was active in growing,
Mm,
and for a very brief amount of time, I was also active in your community, the CloudOps
mm,
community as
mm,
well,
mm,
and also few of my seniors from college, which I
mm,
knew. Now I don't advise doing that, but I had helped them like offload their work for
mm,
they did some part-time freelancing. So
mm.
they were like, hey, there's a lot of work, I'm busy, can you please help us out? I actually took that as a learning opportunity,
Okay,
that
that's
hey,
great.
I don't know PHP.
Uh-huh.
Say like just one contract was on Laravel and PHP, I had no idea about it. I was
Uh-huh.
like, hey, at least I can get to know what it is. So I think it's a give and take thing for
True.
most of the people. Like I had either helped them somewhere out, or
Yes.
like had worked with them,
Mm-hmm.
not professionally, but somehow in some project, or
Mm-hmm.
something personal involvement.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually helped me connect with them better. Like when
Yes.
people know you, they will actually go out of their way to help you.
Yes,
It's a give
absolutely.
and take, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, absolutely. It's the ethical and the right way of how referral works as well. People reach out to the reason why I asked you this question, because what happens these days, because a lot of people have put it out there that you should go with the referral. Okay, ask for referral, but people never really mention what is the right way of asking the referral, right?
Yes.
People just go out there randomly, and whoever they think is working for an XYZ company, they just put out draft an email generated by chat gpt, and then hello XYZ, and then ask for referral, right? So the reason why I asked you, I wanted to know whether you followed that process, or you have gone through the ideal way, which is you asked for the referral with whom you have worked before, or at least they know your work, or at least they know you personally.
Yes.
Basically, the people that can vouch for your skills and your professional and personal ethics, right? So that is the right way of asking the referral. not to some random people by drafting an email or a cold DM. That's not the right way, because they don't know you, they don't know your work. Even if you share your portfolio, they won't even know that whether you have created it by yourself or it is some AI generated or something, right? So that's the right way of
Absolutely.
asking the referral, and this is what I always say to everyone, that first make some meaningful connections, try to help others, like you have done it, try to get some learning out of it, try to showcase your skill, only then ask for referral. And when you are in that position, most of the times you won't even have to ask for referral. People will offer you referral knowing that you are job hunting. Okay, you might
Yes.
have come across this situation as well, where you have put it out there like, I'm looking for a job, and I am learning these things, any tips you have or anything that you would like to share, and people would have offered you, okay, so there is an opening in my company, let me know if you want me to refer you. You would
Uh,
have across some situations as well.
Actually, this really happened last month with me.
Okay.
That a senior reached out to me. Like he's in Germany right now,
Okay.
and he's like we are looking to set up an offshore team,
Mm-hmm.
and we are tight on budgets. So like if you would like to join,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, this is what's that? Is that called pre-series? I've forgotten name, like the earlier series
Yeah.
of funding.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I have just joined another company and I cannot proceed with this. Like
and
I
and
had a
and
personal on my WhatsApp that, hey Harsh, this is a position we are
yes.
hiring for. Will you be there? Like, will you be
Yes.
available? This
Yes.
has happened with me, and
And
twice it has
that's
happened.
that's the right way, and that's how I also refer people. I don't refer, I get like hundreds of DM every day on LinkedIn, Twitter, if you can refer me to this, here's my resume. But I always tell them this thing, like, I have not worked with you before, and I have not known you personally, so how can I refer you? When we refer to someone in a company, there is a column, there is a field in which they ask us, how do you know that person? What do I mention in that? Right. And I have seen the companies, there is new trend going on, referral as a service, in which people are selling referral on some, I won't name the company, but there are companies that are selling the referrals in x amount. And that's so wrong,
Yes.
man, that's ethically wrong. So how can you expect someone to know you personally when you are selling it as a service publicly like this? I'm not sure how is even allowed, or like, they have better problems to solve, right? We have better problems in the world to solve rather than selling referrals as a service. So, in my opinion, like, the right way of asking for a referral is first you network before you actually need a job. You should network from before, from early stage, like when you are in college, or let's say mostly when you are not looking for job. Okay, make some meaningful connections, help them, mentor them, or like you said, you were part of communities, so be an active member of the community. There is always something you can give to someone, right? Whether it's an advice, a technical guidance, mentorship, anything, right? There could be something that you are good at, so help someone so that they know that yes, you have what it takes, so that they know that yes, this is the right person to whom I can refer. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about referrals.
I would just say one thing on that. So
Uh-huh.
there was this in 2014, 15, and 16, when these cyber attacks were happening
Mhm.
all over the world. There was this Patia ransomware, crypto locker, I don't know. So there was this term called ransomware as a service
Mhm.
and referrals as a service. Both have the same abbreviation.
Yeah, exactly. And both are unethical.
Both are unethical.
But the only difference is ransomware as a service, no one is selling it. They were just end users. They were just consuming it as an IaaS service. But this is a PaaS, a SaaS offering out there.
Yes, yes.
People are selling it software as a service.
Yes.
Anyways, that's another topic for some other day. Let's continue with our interview. So Let's focus on your interview experience. Like, what was the interview process like where you have joined already?
So at the current company, since I was interviewing for an intern position, so there was a brief like I got a call from the recruiter. I didn't apply. I
Mm-hmm.
directly got a call from the recruiter, and I had a small telephonic round
Uh-huh.
where the HR runs you through a list of rapid fire questions,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was this technical round where I had a problem to solve. I was given 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was interviewed on the same problem, that how you solved it. They,
Okay.
like, the end goal was not solving the problem,
Mm-hmm.
but actually gauging that, hey, the candidate who has solved this problem, even if he or she has not solved properly, how is he breaking it down? So it was a very chill interview process, to be honest. Then there was this last round that I had was with the CTO, where
Mm-hmm.
we actually, it was more like a solutioning round. I don't exactly remember the questions,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember it was something around a real world challenge that they faced with some XYZ client.
Okay.
So it was more like a solutioning
Yep.
round. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was not asked to code,
Mm-hmm.
but in other companies that I interviewed for,
Mm-hmm.
there were some companies where I had to, there was this round where I had to actually write scripts on the fly, scripts, and at times Terraform as well.
Okay.
And who remembers Terraform?
Mm-hmm.
Who remembers Terraform?
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. Even, every provider changes every day, and there is a lot going on. You cannot write Terraform without referring to the documentation.
Yeah, yeah, and I failed that one. I failed miserably. So yeah, and the ones where I had to write, some Python script or do some automation, those
Mm-hmm.
kind of rounds I was able to,
Mm-hmm.
ace. Here it was quite pretty chill, but I have seen a bunch of, like, a range of these types of interviews around during that point in time. So like I had given around, I think for DevOps and SRE, I actually converted only 7 to 8 of the applications into interviews.
Okay.
And I had seen some interviews where they were like hardcore. They were on ki तुम्हारी muscle memory कैसी, like what's your muscle memory? Do you, like, can you just remember each and every Linux command in your head? And let's be real, I failed those interviews miserably. The very next interview
That's
I
great.
went, I memorized, I think, every Linux command I could like I could find out or I would have used. I just opened my bash history and I searched every command that I've ever copy pasted from Stack Overflow. And let's be real, next to interviews, nobody asked me any of those questions, and I was
Yeah.
like, hey man, I wasted my time on this. So some interviews were like
Uh-huh.
hardcore solutioning rounds.
Mm.
Like you are given, say, hey, I want to, scale Prometheus. I want to have, I'm running a Postgres cluster, failover and all. Or some rounds where I had to actually break down a microservice into multiple
Yes.
microservices.
Yes.
And it was a very, very high level, like very
That's
high level
actually how the
rounds.
interview should be. That's the right way of conducting an interview. Asking commands and asking
Yes.
Terraform code. That's not even a real interview. Like, why do we need that? We have made so much advancement in AI and this space. Why do we need to memorize commands now? Yes, you should know if you
Yes.
use it on a regular basis, but let's say some random XYZ command that you have probably be using once in a blue moon. Why do we need to remember those commands? Yes, these type of situations where they'll be testing you on real world scenarios, like how do you scale from 0 to 100k users, or how do you make sure that your application is reliable and you have disaster recovery in place. These are the questions that make a lot of sense, and how a candidate should be tested on the skills, not how well he or she can memorize the commands, right?
Like
So
I had seen that whole range.
yeah, you have seen whole the range, because every interview is different. The mindset of every interviewer is different. Not
Yes.
everyone thinks alike. Some
Yep.
people are still living in that era where they'll be asking you commands and they'll be asking you, all those things. But that's okay. That's all part of the learning process, right? Okay. So you mentioned like for this role, a recruiter reached out to you. Why do you think he or she reached out to you? Like, what have you done that none of the other classmate of yours have done?
So I would be very brief on that. I won't give full details on it.
Sure. Yeah.
But the reason was that CTOs at our company, they were
Mm-hmm.
friends with one of my older engagements, which are
Okay.
mentioned on my LinkedIn resume.
Okay.
That I got to know actually when I converted it full time. That
Oh,
they
okay.
had, because they had worked with me, they
Mm-hmm.
recommended me.
Okay.
Like you don't
Amazing.
have to go and filter out 100 candidates.
Yes.
It was like that.
So again,
I
it was
think
sort of an indirect referral.
yes, it was not actually a referral, but it was like that. Hey,
Recommendation, referral, one and
this
both.
guy has
Okay.
worked with me.
Yes.
Like you can interview him.
Yes.
It was
Amazing.
kind of like that.
Amazing. So you had that work in your plate, right? You have left a good impression on someone with your work because they have recommended you. Okay. So you also mentioned because you have gone through a lot of uh, different varieties of interviews with different set of companies. So how much do you think coding, DSA, and actual hands-on writing the code helped you, or like were there many interviews in which you have to ask, like, you write this code snippet, or there were DSA rounds? What was your experience in that?
One interviewer had a DSA round
Okay,
because
only one.
the company, and it was actually necessary on the part of the company
Hmm.
because they were working with CSI drivers.
Okay.
They really wanted people who could write CSI drivers,
Hmm.
and for that, I think it was fair enough for them to ask, at least have gauge my basic DSA skills.
Okay.
And so there was one round where I actually had DSA,
Okay.
like a proper DSA. It was a basic recursion question,
Hmm.
nothing else.
Hmm.
Like they were testing that, hey, like you might not be really good at DSA, but do you at least know the basic programming constructs? And
Yes.
apart from that, when it comes to high level solutioning rounds, for example, I was asked in one of the interviews about how do you handle database migrations in a pipeline, or how do you deprecate APIs. I think when it came to how do you deprecate APIs, like from V1 to V2 of an API, how do you go about that route? And then you have database migrations in place as well. How
Hmm.
are you going? So I think that's where me, my short experience, not short experience, I would say, my, my short involvements with some sort of backend work, even uh, right now for POCs, like where I'm working, even for POCs, proof of concepts, I have to write backend code
Yes.
somewhere or the other to validate something, just to
Hmm.
validate something, or
Hmm.
just to create a document for other developers that, hey, this is how you can get this metric out of your application or something
Okay.
like that.
Hmm.
So that is where I think it helps. In
Hmm.
fact, nowadays people have recommended me to go through books like DDIA,
Hmm.
designing data intensive applications, and books like patterns of distributed systems, these kind of books. And there, I think basic knowledge of how applications are built is I think it's non-negotiable. And also I think, since like this is personal, but I don't know if this is a good advice or not, so I won't say this is an advice.
Hmm.
But since I was early in my career, I am early in my career, right?
Hmm.
So I think having that range is essential for me. You never know what will be the landscape of this whole cloud engineering thing, or the reliability engineering, or
Hmm.
nowadays it's a new term coming up, platform engineering. Where will
Hmm.
it go? You never know. But I think the hardcore skills, which is systems skills, like architecture, system architecture, and basic coding skills.
Hmm.
I think basic database skills, how do you design databases in the first place, I think these are going to remain. And in
Yes.
fact, in this 1 year, like last 1 year, I have traveled to a lot of meetups across Delhi, few in Pune, few in Mumbai, and the most experienced SREs or DevOps people, like I'm talking about DevOps managers,
Mm-hmm.
DevOps leads at company, they are super good at least one thing. Either it's networking, or it's database,
Mm-hmm.
or it's backend frameworks. Like this one thing in software engineering, they're like
Mm-hmm.
extremely good at. Like they can tell things out of their mind, out of their head. So I think that, like, that is a takeaway that I took from them, that I should at least get better at one thing.
Okay.
And I think we are moving towards a model in computer science as a whole, or software engineering as a whole, where everything is codified.
Mm-hmm.
Like earlier we had Ansible. Before Ansible we were configuring servers by, this cloud in it. We were using ad hoc scripts. Then we came to immutable infrastructure, because we wanted that, say, everything should be built from code. Even the changes should create a new server from code. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you really look into these things, these concepts actually have evolved from software engineering concepts, like single responsibility principle, don't repeat yourselves. So I think software engineering as a whole has a strong dependency on coding,
Mm-hmm.
and one should know.
Yeah, even though as a DevOps or SR engineer, you won't be writing the applications from scratch, but you should actually at least know how to debug those, how to
Yes.
find the bugs if there is some loopholes, if there's, let's say, there is some bottlenecks in your application. You should be able to figure out that. You should be able to add the tracing to it, all those things. And you should be good at least one programming language, be it
Yes,
Python, be it
absolutely.
JavaScript, anything, but you should be good at least one, because the coding principle will remain the same, oops concept will remain the same. But
Yes.
again, you should know how to debug the application as an SRE or as a DevOps engineer as well, because that's most of the times you will be troubleshooting with that. So that comes to my next question. What is your day to day job responsibilities? Like what you do on a day to day basis and how it is different from a DevOps role?
Okay, so like rather the client that we are working for, right?
Mhm.
It's an early stage fintech startup. The
Okay.
client that I'm working for, and there we have an infrastructure team.
Mm-hmm.
So the infrastructure team, everybody gets rotated between, DevOps tickets, and
Mm-hmm.
then planned work, and
Mm-hmm.
then the SRE on call thing,
Okay.
the first responder responsibilities and all. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the core skills when it comes to hard subject matter skills, or the what I would say, the tools and technologies, they are the same for both the DevOps and SRE. But I think what changes is the end customer,
Mm-hmm.
and second, the amount of responsibilities and how you think about problems.
Mm-hmm.
So if I am an SRE, right, my end customer is the actual user of the product or the platform, or whatsoever we are offering as
Mm-hmm.
software or as a
Mm-hmm.
service, right?
Yeah.
And in that case I think about that, hey, if some change is going to production, has it been tested in stage, has it been tested in the lower environments?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm setting up alerts, like
Mm-hmm.
mostly I'll be thinking around SLOs, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are my SLOs? What is the SLIs? If we have some SLAs around,
Mm-hmm.
and like SRE work, I think is more on the side of production.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, when I'm a SRE on call, I have first responder responsibilities, first line of response to incidents, right? And to be honest, like I have seen some pretty bad incidents in last 1 month. Like it looks cool on LinkedIn, but those sleepless nights, you I don't think anybody would like it when you have to wake up, say, till 5 or 8 a.m. in
Mm-hmm.
the morning, and it's not anything about work culture, it's about business at that point.
Yeah.
So the SRE role is more into these things. But when it comes to the DevOps side of things, it is more like that there are tickets, developers need your help,
Mm-hmm.
in debugging some issues, say a queue, they're not able to publish messages to a queue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I go back to the point that I mentioned a few minutes earlier about coding. So
Mm-hmm.
there was this one issue where I had to actually help people triage problems with their Ruby on Rails application, and I
Okay.
had never written a single line of Ruby in my life. At that point, I think, because I had written some code in Python, like I had written a lot of code in Django earlier, that actually helped. Even though it is very different, the
Mm-hmm.
structure, the file structure is very different, but basic, like MVC, model view controller, that helped me there. So like DevOps is more, your end customer becomes the dev teams,
Yes.
that hey, need help setting up these permissions, I need help setting up these queues, hey,
Mm-hmm.
how should I like set up persistence on my like on my Redis cluster, these are my application needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is where a DevOps and an SRE role differs. SRE is more focused on that, how do I make the production as stable as possible
Mm-hmm.
without sacrificing developer velocity. And a DevOps role is more like that, how do I unblock the developers or dev teams as fast as possible. The
Okay.
key skills is still, like, even as an SRE, at times you will have to debug CI/CD pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think nowadays, even though these definitions are for the books, but I know a few of my friends who are working at other companies, they're like, हमारे like here there's no difference. Like DevOps
Yeah.
people are doing all the SRE work as well.
Yes. Yes, that's
So
true. That's what it's happening. The core principles remain the same, and then the roles are interchangeable because there is a lot of overlap between these roles. Platform engineering, DevOps engineering, or SRE, all those things. It just the focus area will become something else.
yes,
Otherwise, the underlying principle are the same, and you have to prepare for each of these roles the same way. You have
yes,
to
exactly.
learn everything. Okay. So, what's your tech stack like? Like you are working in a SRE DevOps kind of role.
Hmm.
What are all the tools and technologies that you work with on a daily basis?
So mostly like right now I'm working, like everything is AWS here
Okay.
where I'm working right now.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, when I was into DevOps thing, I was into Azure DevOps
Mm-hmm.
earlier,
Mm-hmm.
before this role. So right now it's mostly around AWS. We have EKS, we
Mm-hmm.
have all the ECR things, and then we have Elasticache, Aurora clusters,
Okay.
all that AWS stuff. Apart
Mm-hmm.
from that, for IAC, I think it's mostly Terraform. And for CI/CD, I would say, since we are in middle of a migration, so I have to
Mm-hmm.
work with both GitHub Actions as
Okay.
well as AWS code pipelines. Like these are the core DevOps tool, like not DevOps tools, but the core software delivery tools, I would say. Our tooling around observability is all around open telemetry. Like we were a hardcore whole everything Datadog organization, and now we've migrated it to open telemetry, so that later we can switch between multiple providers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now these are the most of the monitoring, APM, observability, and
Mm-hmm.
software delivery tools. But
Okay.
apart from that, when it comes to tech stack on the application side of things,
Mm-hmm.
so currently I'm working with a lot of Java and Ruby based tooling,
Okay.
and some tooling is around Golang, like some dev tools and a few of our services. On database side of things, those are mostly SQL databases on Amazon Aurora RDS,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's this Redis we have been using.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the tech stack is something like which it keeps changing for me every, say, day. Let's
Mm-hmm.
be very real. It really depends on what kind of issues I am working on, or what kind of planned work I am working on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a diverse tech stack if you see it from a software engineering role perspective. But
Mm-hmm.
from an SRE perspective, it is like, okay, yeah, this context switching is okay.
No, true. That's true. Because that's what happens. Let's say I'm working in Kubernetes specifically, But then in Kubernetes as well, there are different components written in different languages. Cluster
Yes,
autoscaler is written in Go, and then there are different components of Kubernetes that's been written in, like I believe some of them are written in Python, and some of them like the internal components, and then there are a lot of tech stack that's been involved. And so you have to be flexible enough to switch between multiple programming languages, tech stack, and so on, right?
yes,
um,
absolutely.
and it happens in every scale of the organization, whether big or small, whether a startup or a enterprise. It happens. So you have to be flexible, and you have to be adaptive to the change, because change
Absolutely.
is something that we all hate, but we all have to embrace it. So the next question that I have, we are almost at the end. So the next question that I have is, how do you upskill yourself? How do you keep yourself up to date with the latest tools and technologies?
When it comes to upskilling, I do try to build small, dev tools for myself
Okay.
to, help me automate my own work. But apart from that, I really like to make the most out of my work. So
Okay.
what I do is, like, I try to push for, if say something interesting comes in,
Mm-hmm.
that hey, this is going to happen later in the team, we will require this. I go out of my way to, like, at least come up with an action plan to pitch to my managers that say, hey, this is the background work that I did earlier, and this is how we can do it. Like, try to make the most out of it, because when you are an intern, you don't have much of a workload. But
Mm-hmm.
as you progress into a full-time role, it's pretty exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically when you are doing things like, you are on constant rotations between multiple responsibilities, it actually, the context switching is really heavy. In the end of the day, you do not have the energy to go and, hey, I would watch a YouTube video or I could read a book. That's exhausting. So
Uh-huh.
I try to make the most out of my work itself.
Mm-hmm.
This is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is that I do follow some technical blogs. I follow some technical blogs. I do read some AWS white papers. I think I haven't yet finished on the AWS well architected framework yet. I'm reading on this.
That's
And
actually that's actually the first white paper of AWS that I read when I was preparing for my first role in cloud. That's really an amazing one.
yes,
AWS
absolutely.
well architected framework, plus there is AWS three-tier architecture. There is web application. I don't remember the name, but it's around the three-tier architecture or web application in AWS. So that one is also really helpful.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
so so you mentioned you basically build the tools for your own automations. You do the POC, you do the hands-on, and then you come up with a plan, and then a lot of white papers that also help. So that's how you keep yourself up to date. That's a good way of approaching. That's a good way to learn something new. And but this is for the company, right, where you are working currently. But let's say
Yes, yes.
you are interested in some technology, something is coming up. Let's say, for example, agentic AI or something else that comes up recently, and you want to learn it. Then what's
Hmm.
your approach on that?
I did get to work with agentic AI in my internship a lot.
Okay.
Let's be real. Like, I even have a talk out on my YouTube as well, like
Mm-hmm.
on Mirantis YouTube channel, on how do you run LLM workloads on Kubernetes. So
Mm-hmm.
this is one thing. But apart from that, I do think at my workplace, I do have a few colleagues who are very interested into these kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of new things. So I generally find peers who are interested in the same thing. And right now it's, workplace. Earlier it was in college, like, I was part of communities and stuff, so I always found someone who was interested in the same thing. Let's be
Okay.
real. Apart from, the low level things, a lot of things I actually find someone who is also interested in the same thing, so it
Okay.
actually becomes easier when you have somebody to, learn the same thing that you're trying to learn. That actually helps you keep the accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's not always possible to go and find out each and every resource.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I think, having somebody who is trying to learn the same thing actually helps
Mhm.
a lot. Like it actually 10x's your speed of learning, because you can have discussions on, hey, am I doing this right? What
Mhm.
can possibly go wrong if I do something like this?
Mhm.
Or they're like, okay, let's build a small project, we want to
Mhm.
learn xyz thing. So for example, I was trying to learn about etl pipelines,
Mhm.
because one of the POCs that we were doing were actually, on observability, and how
Mhm.
do you actually use the APM metrics to find out some other, business related insights. How do you, get out of it? And there
Mhm.
was this book that we had with us, DDI, the
Mhm.
OG book for data engineering nowadays, right?
Mhm.
It is more around, distributed systems as well. So okay, that book is all good, you can get a lot of information, like even, even if you finish one or two chapters out of it, if you go back you'll find something you have missed. But that's a very slow thing, let's be real.
Mhm.
You're trying to design an ETL pipeline, and then you get somebody who has earlier worked on ETL pipelines but wants to learn about observability. Now that pairing can help you accelerate that learning. So I generally find people, and at times when it is hard to find such people, I prefer books over videos. So for a lot of subjects now out there on the internet, I think there have been a lot of good books on the subject. A lot of them were written, say, back in 2010, 2012. Maybe the technologies they are using is outdated,
Mhm.
but the core concepts are the same. For example, a month back, I was having it, and it was around database migrations failing, and it was a very distributed monolith like architecture. And then I was directed that, hey, there's this old book on refactoring databases by Martin Fowler. And I think it does not talk about ORMs. I think it does talk at some place, I don't remember. I went through the first five chapters of it. It does not talk a lot about, hey, these are the different kinds of databases. It is purely on how do you, first design databases in a way that when you make changes, they don't break the existing applications. How do you how do you do migrations in a way that you can roll them back?
Uh-huh.
Something like this.
Mhm.
So I think this is something which can never be made possible by a YouTube tutorial.
Mhm.
This can never be taught in a classroom, be it a university classroom, be
Mhm.
it any course. I don't think nobody can help
Mhm.
you out there.
Okay.
Even a book on a subject like Terraform or Bash. So there's this one book on Terraform that I read, which was on, I don't remember the name of that book. It is, I think, Terraform Up and Running. I don't remember. It's from O'Reilly. I think just going through that book, I got to know a lot of quirks and behaviors of Terraform, because the guy who wrote that book
Mhm.
had actually worked on it for 10 years and has had made a lot of mistakes that he discusses on that book. That
Okay.
this is where you can go wrong. So I think these are the things which I don't think any course or YouTube or a lecture will teach you.
There is this saying as well, you can learn from your own mistakes, but then you can also learn from others mistakes. It will help
Hmm.
you save time. Don't wait for
Yes, yes,
you
yes.
to make the mistake. I mean, you can learn from
Hmm.
others mistakes as well.
And the funniest thing is that even after reading, you'll make the mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You
yeah
don't
that's
learn until you get your hands burnt.
that's the human
But
behavior. Yeah, that's nothing we
yeah,
can do about
but
it.
at least you knew that you went wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
That is the outcome, and that's when, like, I'm not a natural reader. I'm not a natural reader. For me, take even reading a book takes a lot of time. Like,
Mm.
if I have picked up one chapter, it might take me 3 weeks to get through just one chapter.
Mhm.
I'm a really slow reader,
That's
but I
okay.
have seen the value of books, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and
Books
that's why I
are
prefer them.
the most underrated resource of all times. Even in this AI era, books are
Hmm.
still the most valuable and most underrated thing. You know, I recently developed this habit of reading books. I used to hate books, but then a couple of years back I started reading again, and I'm mostly into productivity books or technical books, productivity books, or business related books, not into fictions. But these are the books read, but I just don't have time to read. So what I do is I carry one book in my car dashboard, and there is one book on my bedside. So whenever I'm not able to sleep, I just start reading the book. Or when I go somewhere where I have to wait, let's say I go 3 or 4 times a week for my kids' classes, swimming classes, gymnastic, and all those things, where I just have to sit and wait for an hour. And instead of scrolling, so if we are waiting somewhere for an hour, what we do as human, we just pull out our phone and we start scrolling our reels and all those things, right? So it's a total waste of time, and it drains your mental energy. So for that time, what I do, I have kept a book in my car dashboard. So whenever I go somewhere, instead of pulling out my phone, I pull out my book and I start reading it. So that's what I do these days.
I think for me, I really need a a quiet place to read because like I'm not the best reader when it comes to books, and when I'm like waiting on airport or say something like railway station, I like to eat. I like to eat a lot.
That's okay.
I'll
I
find
mean,
I'll find some place to eat.
yeah, so whatever floats the boat, but yes, reading book is something that I advise to everyone.
Yes.
If you have not started it, please do it. Please do it and read whatever you like. Please do it.
Like
So
most of the books that I've started reading, I haven't like reached the end of those yet. Let's be pretty honest on that. Never have learned those from any blog or any YouTube tutorial. Never.
yep, true. True. Okay, Harsh, we are almost done. I was enjoying the conversation, but we have to end it somewhere.
Yes.
So I think that this would be the right time to end it. Thank you so much for giving us the time and sharing all the experience, all the insights, and I'm sure it will be helpful. So I wish you all the best for your career, and yes, we'll be in touch. So thank you, and you have a good day.
Hey, thanks a lot, Piyush. It was really nice, being on a podcast.
Same here, man. Okay, take care. Bye bye.
Hey, bye.